Well, hello and good morning. Take a second to settle down for the folks looking at the silent auction items. Just want to let you know there's a stuffed animal with my name on it, so be very careful. Or you could just bid a little higher and just make me, make a larger donation to the United Leukodystrophy Foundation. So it is my privilege and honor to have the opportunity to introduce to you Dr. Walter Koroshetz, who is the director of the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke. And to let you know that NINDS, as it's called, is the major institute at the National Institutes of Health that funds neuroscience research, and its mission is to decrease the burden of illness due to neurological disorders and stroke through research. And Dr. Koroshetz only has a few minutes to speak, so I won't go into his storied career, but what's more important to me is the older I get, it's not necessarily your scientific achievements and professional achievements, but it's who you are as a human being. And I can say Dr. Koroshetz, who manages a NIH portfolio of over $1 billion, this is the second ultra-rare disease meeting that he has come to. And I am deeply appreciate that and deeply honored. So thank you so much.
Great. Well, thanks, Joe. And yeah, it was a pleasure coming to the meeting. I learned a lot. I met a couple of new friends and a bunch of old friends, and excited by the opportunity to talk to the families here today. I'm just going to kind of maybe talk a little about, just make a couple of points that I made yesterday, which I think are real apropos. So as Joe said, I'm one of the NIH directors. There's 27 institutes and centers at NIH. And I think our budget is somewhere around $45 billion a year. So we are kind of the biggest biomedical research organization in the world. And that's because the taxpayers see the value of what we're doing. So it's really important for me to kind of make the argument, to the people that really matter about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so that's why I really enjoy coming to these meetings, meeting the families. I guess the point I made yesterday, which I'll make again today, is that in the area that we're in, research on neuroscience and brain disorders, spinal cord, peripheral nerve muscle disorders, these gather the most money of anything else, more than cancer, more than heart disease. It's a little known fact, but it's true, and that's because the science is what drives the money. The really good science and the really good scientists write the grants, they get the funds, and that's where the money goes. And so we do have what I would call, a gigantic armada of scientists working on brain diseases, and there's so many brain diseases that we always have to look about what someone else is doing. The breakthroughs oftentimes don't come from somebody studying the disease you're interested in. It could come, we were just chatting a second ago, from somebody studying, bacteria, finding some brand new mechanism that bacteria use to fight viruses, turned out to lead to gene editing, which is one of the really powerful tools coming to, I think, to the disorders that we really care about. As I mentioned, the funding for brain goes to many different diseases. This is just, a smattering of the disease that we care for, and we have probably about 400 different diseases in our institute that we care for, and the majority of them are rare diseases. And some of them, which used to be common diseases like epilepsy, are now broken out into many, many different rare forms of epilepsy. And that's kind of what the genetic revolution has done. It's allowed us to find out that it's not just one epilepsy, but there's many different types of epilepsy. They all have different genetic forms, and that's what's happening with the leukodystrophies. Most of the diseases that we have just keep getting broken down into more and more different subtypes. you can try and develop a treatment that fits a whole bunch of subtypes. So like in epilepsy, there's some seizure medicines work for a variety of subtypes of epilepsy, but still 30% of people with epilepsy, the drugs don't work at all. So for all these diseases now, the focus is to really come down on what is the genetic cause and how do you fix it. So that's kind of a general problem that's out there. But the opportunities to do so first are going to be in the rare, ultra-rare disorders, especially those that affect children. And that's where we have a lot of emphasis right now in trying to make use of this knowledge about the genetics and these new genomic therapies to attack the childhood neurological disorders, and leukodystrophies being one actually of the main targets for a lot of the research right now. We fund a consortium of investigators around the country that work on leukodystrophies. Here are some of the folks who are here today: Ali Fatemi, Florian Eichler, Adeline Vanderveer. They run this network with multiple sites around the country, and what they're doing is collecting data on patients so that they have a package to predict what's going to happen to people with these different disorders, so that when you take a therapy and apply it to those folks, you can see a change for the better, or if it's not working, no, it's not working. So you need to do all this kind of preparatory work before you go into a clinical trial, and that's what they're doing now in, I think it's 4 different leukodystrophies. And this data has been useful already it's basically contributed to the knowledge on which 8 clinical trials are now being undertaken or have been undertaken. And so it's this natural history data we call it clinical trial readiness data this group has been really valuable in putting together for actually they're targeting 4 different leukodystrophies. We fund at NINDS a whole bunch of investigators who are putting real strong efforts into developing better treatments for the leukodystrophies. Many of them are here today. Patty Mazzolino I saw yesterday. Paul Fox is here. And some of them are looking at these molecular events that occur in these different diseases with the idea that maybe you can intervene with a therapy to ameliorate the disease, or hopefully if you treat it early enough, could you actually, and it's an effective therapy, could you actually prevent the disease? There's another group of folks, many of which are here today and yesterday, who have grants. These K grants, K23 grants. These are grants to early stage investigators to launch their careers, and so you have 3 here who are going to spend their careers in the leukodystrophies. We're able to get these very competitive grants, which usually highly predictive that these people are going to be leaders in the field for their entire career. So a lot of good people working in the leukodystrophies. I mentioned the different potential new therapies coming out, and these are just a couple of programs that are running now. One of them on the left is a consortium of companies and NIH people trying to develop a platform of gene therapies to replace genes that aren't working on a platform so that things could go much faster and actually be able to use the platform knowledge to treat many different diseases much more quickly than one-offs, going one at a time. We have a network at NINDS called the Ultra Rare Gene-Based Therapy Network, and that's to develop genomic therapies for the ultra-rare disorders like the leukodystrophies. There's another program at the bottom right, PAVE-GT, that's very similar, and it's doing that within the NIH campus in Bethesda. And then the SCGE is a somatic cell gene editing program that we're co-leading out of NIH, and that's to develop these really powerful tools that can go in and basically correct the mutation. So hard to imagine, but it's really doable now in certain models of disease. And there are a couple of people that are really close to getting this into the clinic. And we're involved because we want to be able to do this in the brain or the spinal cord or the peripheral nerve. And we have really good, really smart people working in this space. So it's very kind of science fiction-like that you can go in and correct mutations, but it's definitely doable now with these technologies, at least in the animal models. And we have to do a lot of work to get them into people. So this is just some of the BGTC programs that are being done. These are the gene therapy programs. So one of them is done by Laura Adang, who is here at the meeting, the multiple sulfatase deficiency gene therapy project. These are the ultra-rare gene therapies that we're working on. One of them is a lysosomal storage disease, Menkes disease, prion disease, and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, the rare types of ALS. So these are all people, real pioneers trying to get these gene therapies into people with bad diseases. And, if these things work, there should be, a whole host of other diseases that can get in line to get these treatments. So I wanted to kind of offer that as what we're looking at, both in the present and the future. And I think, you get hope from hopefully you see some hope from the research that's ongoing and the people who are here really working hard on these problems. So it was a pleasure to be able to chat with you today and to be here yesterday. And hope you have a great day today. Thanks a lot. Happy to answer any questions if anybody has any questions. Yep. Hey, Patty. Yep.
Thank you, Walter. It's fantastic to see the speed that translation and targeted therapies are going at NIH. What do you need from us? Researchers, families, advocacy groups, clinicians? What does NIH need us to do more?
Well, so NIH doesn't actually do anything except give out money. So we are a granting organization. So yeah, I mean, the whole idea of NIH is that we try and get really smart people like yourself to the resources that you need to, to follow your passion to develop treatments. So that's what we're all about. Now I think it's, doing that is complicated. It takes a lot of work and a lot of partners. And I would say, for the families here, you read in the paper about, the famous doctor who did this or the famous scientist who did that. But what they don't talk about, what they should talk about, is all the people who signed up for these therapies and are the subjects of the research, because without that, nothing happens. But it's really a big mistake. Anytime I get an interview from anybody from a newspaper or something, I always make that point that, the real heroes are the people who are undergoing these therapies. And these genomic therapies, these are not safe. These are dangerous. And everybody's taking a big risk when you go through these things right now. So yeah, I think for the families to know that the research doesn't go anywhere. They can do a lot of mice, but that doesn't really tell you what's going to happen in a person. So it's really the subjects that work with the consortium and come in and get the visits. And, we heard how, one of the major things yesterday that people would like is to avoid doctor visits. But then research means you got to come in. So clearly it's a big sacrifice on everyone's part to take part in the research. So I would say for the families, that's the thing to know. And I think for the researchers, we really have to kind of turn that page and give credit to the people who are really doing the work out there, and that's the subjects. So great. All right, well, have a great day, and look forward to seeing you again.